pananaw at opinyon ng pag-uulat ng mag-uulat sa programang ito ay hindi ang pangunahing posisyon o pahayag ng pamumunuan ng organisasyong ito. The views and opinions expressed in this live report are those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the management of this organization. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Editorial. Today is Monday, March 14, 2022. I am your host, Carlos Miguel Kanahashi, and together with me is Sir Mark Paulo Betita for my technical assistant for today. We're broadcasting simultaneously on InkluRadio Facebook page and to be uploaded on the next day on the Hands in Inclusion Philippines YouTube channel. We shall commence our presentation in just a moment and we will be back after our commercials. Now this.
Meron akong pangarap para sa aking pamilya, para sa aking kapwa, at para sa bayan. Kahit mahirap, kahit masakit, mahal ko kayong lahat. Kahit anong mangyari, ikaw, ako, tayo. Ating isisigaw sa mundo. Inklusibong may tatag, angat buhay itatahak. Matapang pa rin tayo. Ang tropa, hindi nang iiwan. Ang senyas, isang instrumento. Ilang beses matumba, tayo huling baba. Luman ang ating pinanggalingan. Tayo ay muling liliwan. Para sa pangarap, para sa pamilya, at para sa bayan. Tayo ang ida. Tuloy ang inclusion.
Okay, welcome back to Editorial. This afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, we will discuss to you monetary policy. When we say monetary policy, what does this mean? Why do we need this in order to help our economy? So without further ado, here now is our topic, monetary policy. Sir Mark, share screen please. Please activate the share screen please. Thank you. Okay, next slide please. Our topic for our podcast for this day is monetary policy. Next slide, please. Let us define what money and currency is. When we say money, ladies and gentlemen, this is anything that is generally accepted in exchange for goods and services. In other words, we use it as a mode of exchange. And when we say currency, it consists of coins and or banknotes that some institutions or governments has created to be used for the trading of goods and services and the payment of debts or utang. At ang pambayaran ito sa mga serbisyo at ang mga gamit. Yan ang uri ng at kahalagahan ng pera sa atin. Next slide, please. When we say legal tender, in most nations today, coins and banknotes are the only forms of legal tender. Why? Because coins and paper have been officially declared to be money, to be acceptable for the settlement of debts and financial obligations in transactions. Fiat money means a means of exchange that has been established by a government declaration. Next slide, please. So demand deposits have become popular because, ladies and gentlemen, of the following. to ease and safety of transactions, lower transaction costs, and the provision of transaction records. Next slide, please. Credit cards and debit cards are different. When we say credit card, this is generally acceptable in exchange for goods and services. It is a guaranteed loan available on demand to the cardholder, which merely defers the cardholder's payment for a transaction using a demand deposit. A credit card is a convenient tool for carrying out transactions. When we say debit cards, these can also be used to withdraw money in the ATM. And also, this is done through bank deposits as well. And ngayon, uso na yung ang tinatawag po natin mga digital apps kagaya ng GCash, Paymaya, at iba pang mga cryptocurrencies, 'di ba? Uso na yung Bitcoin, yung at iba pa kasi this will help us improve our economy, especially 'di ba since when the coronavirus pandemic happened ever since 2020, some have began to use GCash, Paymaya, and other forms of payment as well, using cashless transactions. Cashless transactions means credit card, debit card, or prepaid credit card. Okay. Sir Mark, tanong, bakit during this pandemic, bakit nauso ang GCash, Paymaya, at iba pa mga cashless transactions? Sir Mark, hello?
Kasi po, para po makaiwas po sa makaiwas po sa lumalaganap na pandemic na kagaya po ng coronavirus, at saka yung mga germs po, para hindi po kumalat.
That's absolutely right, Sir Mark. That's the reason why nauso na ang GCash, Paymaya, at iba pang mga cashless transaction is to avoid holding too much cash because this will also avoid germs as well. As we move on to our next slide please. So non-transaction deposits are funds that cannot be used but must be converted and can be divided into savings accounts and time deposits. Saving accounts and bank savings account and time deposits should be opened in the bank. In money market mutual funds, these are interest-earning accounts provided by brokers who pool funds into investments such as treasury bills. Non-transaction deposits and money market mutual funds are known as near money because they can quickly convert into money. Next slide, please. So money is an asset that we generally use to buy goods and services. It's easy to convert money into goods and services so that we can say that it is the most liquid of assets. When we say liquidity, it refers to the ease with which one asset can be converted into another asset or into goods and services. Next slide, please. In money supply, ladies and gentlemen, M1 is currency, traveler's checks, and checkable deposits. M2, savings deposits, time deposit, and money market mutual fund. M2 is M1 plus the saving deposit plus the time deposit plus the money market mutual funds. Next slide, please. What backs money? Today, there is no meaningful precious metal backing to give money value. The true backing Behind money is faith that people will take it in exchange for goods and services. People are willing to accept pieces of paper as money because of their faith in the government and in banks and other financial institutions. Next slide, please. What are the functions of money? It is a medium of exchange because it facilitates transactions and lowers the transaction cost. Money is a measure of value. It also serves as a store of value by providing a means of saving in an efficient manner. Money is a means of deferred payment because it makes it easier to borrow and to repay loans. Next slide, please. How are banks create money? The biggest players in the banking industry are banks, commercial banks. It's different from a central bank. Commercial banks handle everyday financial transactions of business and households through demand deposit accounts and savings accounts and by making short-term commercial and consumer loans. What are the most important functions of financial institutions? Next slide, please. These companies are the depositories for savings and liquid assets that are used by individuals and firms for transaction purposes. They can create money by making loans. In making loans, financial institutions act as intermediaries between savers who supply funds and borrowers seeking funds to invest. Next slide, please. When a bank lends money to a person, it does not typically give the borrower cash. Rather, the bank gives the borrower the funds by issuing a check or by adding funds to an existing checking account. Banks make profit by collecting higher interest payments to the loans they made and they pay the depositors for those funds. Next slide, please. Okay. So, because the way to make more profit is to make more loans. Banks want to make a large volume of loans. Government regulatory authorities limit the loan issuance of banks by imposing reserve requirements. Why? Because banks are required by law to keep on hand a quantity of cash or reserve accounts with the central bank equal to a prescribed proportion of the checkable deposits. Next slide, please. Let us define what reserve requirements is. Reserve requirements, ladies and gentlemen, exist primarily in order to control the amount of demand and time deposits and thus the size of the money supply. The percentage of deposits the bank must hold at the central bank or at the hand is called the required reserve ratio. Next slide, please. Aside from a commercial bank, let us define what a central bank is. In most countries, the job of manipulating the supply of money belongs to the central bank. Central bank is a banker's bank. Why? Because, ladies and gentlemen, this is the bank where commercial banks maintain their own cash deposits and their reserves. The central bank requires a number of service functions for commercial banks, such as transferring funds and checks between various commercial banks in the banking system. Next slide, please. The central bank typically serves as the primary bank for the central government, handling, for example, the payroll accounts. The central bank buys and sells foreign currencies and generally assists in the completion of financial transactions with other countries. The central bank serves as the lender of last resort, helping banking institutions in financial distress. Next slide, please. The central bank is concerned with the stability of the banking system and the money supply. It can impose regulations on private commercial banks, thereby regulating the size of the money supply and influencing the level of economic activity. The central bank also implements monetary policy, which, along with fiscal policy, forms the basis of efforts to direct the economy to perform in accordance with macroeconomic growth. Next slide, please. In the implementation of monetary policy, the central bank is the prime decision maker for monetary supply. The central bank has three methods: to engage in open market operations, to change reserve requirements, and to change its discount rate. The most important is open market. Why? Okay, let's find out in the next slide. So why open market operations? Because it involves the sale and purchase of bonds of the government. It can be implemented quickly and cheaply. When the central bank buys bonds, it pays the seller of the bonds by check. The person receiving the check deposits the check in his personal bank account, increasing the money supply. The bank may have increased reserves and will then be encouraged to grant loans, further increasing the money supply. And the process also works in reverse. Next slide, please. In reserve requirement, the central bank has the power to change the reserve requirements of banks. In the banking system has $500 billion in deposit. At 12% reserve requirement, the system has $60 billion in reserve. If the central bank changes the reserve requirement to 10%, it frees up 2% or $10 billion of deposits. Banks then expand these freed up deposits with a multiplier effect, in this case by 10 times, ending up with $100 billion more in the stock of money. This is a very powerful tool, which is why it is rarely used. Next slide, please. When we say discount rate, if banks have problems meeting the reserve requirements, they can borrow from the central bank. The central bank charges banks interest at a rate called the discount rate. If the central bank raises the discount rate, it will be more costly for banks to borrow money, thus lowering the potential profits from any new loans. Fewer loans will be made and less money created, thereby reducing the money supply. Next slide, please. If the central bank wants to reduce money supply, it can sell bonds, raise reserve requirements, raise the discount rate, and use a combination of these. These moves tend to decrease aggregate demand, reducing nominal GDP ideally to a decrease in P rather than Q. So ladies and gentlemen, ang pinaka-problema is counterfeiting. Sir Mark, tanong, bakit ang pinaka-problema sa ating pera ay pamemeke or counterfeit?
Kasi po, diyan po bumabagsak ang value ng ating money, which is hindi po nagagamit ng maayos, hindi po nakakapag-circulate ng maayos ang ating pera pag po peki ang ginagamit. So hindi po maganda
Kasi
ng pera.
tama yan, technical supervisor, Sir Mark. So, base sa mga nabalitaan na marami ang napeki ang pera, saan pwede isusumbong? Sa Bangko Sentral, sa Police, or sa NBI? Di ba?
Tama po yun.
Tama yun. Kasi guys, counterfeiting currency is a serious offense under the revised Penal Code of the Philippines. It carries a penalty of at least 12 years and 1 day, as well as a fine not exceeding 2 million pesos. Okay. Next slide, please. As we close our topic, monetary policy is a set of tools that a central bank has available in order to promote sustainable economic growth by controlling the overall supply of money that is available in the banks, the consumers, and the businesses. The goal of monetary policy is to keep the economy humming along at a rate that is neither too hot nor too cold. The central bank may force up interest rates on borrowing in order to discourage spending or force down interest rates to inspire more borrowing and spending. So we're done with our topic. Let us move on to the next part of our show, which is our election 2022 updates. So Duterte ally, Governor Ben Evardong backs Robredo for president. An ally of President Duterte, Ben Evardon, the governor of the province of Eastern Samar, endorsed on Monday Vice President Leni Robredo's bid for the highest elected post in the May 9, 2022 elections. He said that the recent remarks of the traits his successor should have as a virtual endorsement of Vice President Robredo. Duterte over the weekend said that the next president should be compassionate and decisive, a good judge of character, and preferably a lawyer. According to him, he said, "We welcome and to support the high bar President Duterte has set for his successor. He knows whereof he speaks, and we understand it. It is the same standard with which he tries to measure himself in governing the nation. For me and for millions of Filipinos, there is only one decisive and compassionate lawyer among those aspiring to be Filipinos, and she is Vice President Leni. Evardon is the Vice President of PDP Laban, Visayas Chapter. The Duterte-backed wing of PDP Laban was left without a standard bearer after Bongo dropped out of the presidential race. Duterte and Robredo has spread over various issues including the COVID-19 pandemic and the war on drugs. He said that Robredo has been very consistent on her pro-poor programs and advocacies. He was, she was always there to help our people during the pandemic. We will need a president who is determined and forceful in addressing these issues, but at the same time, one who has compassion for all affected sectors, especially the poor. It's Leni Robredo who fits this bill. Robredo said the endorsement was important to her considering that she was not a front runner in election surveys. I still need to do many things, catch up, and yet people are already brave enough to express support. This is the kind of support that you will really value because in difficult times, they are already fighting for you. Robredo on Monday also secured the backing of Daniel Fernando, the governor of Bulacan Province. Meanwhile, the Secretary General of PDP Laban, Melvin Matibag, said he had yet to talk with Everdon about his endorsement of Lenny Robredo. He said, if it were true, his endorsement boils down to a personal choice and not the political party chaired by President Duterte. He said that the party would support the presidential candidate and he would continue the Duterte government's infrastructure drive called the Build, Build, Build project, the fight against corruption, the war on drugs, the malasakit centers, and among others. That concludes our election 2022 updates. Next slide, please. So let us have the time to get to know our candidates in the May 9, 2022 elections. Our featured candidate for this day, next slide please, is Jopet Season. He'll be running for senator this year. He completed his studies at Manuel L. Quezon Universities with a course of Bachelor of Law. He also served as the councilor of Quezon City for 6 years, the former chair of the Liberal Party chapter in Quezon City. He was also the assistant general manager of the National Housing Authority from 2001 to 2005 and the president of the National Home Mortgage Corporation from 2006 to 2012. And he's the host of Ipaglaban Mo, a weekly dramatization of actual cases settled in the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals. He serves as the replacement of Kabayan Noli de Castro in the senatorial slate of Isko Moreno, for the May 9, 2022 elections under the Action Democratico Party. This May 9, 2022, let's vote wisely in the elections. Next slide, please. So here are some of the very important announcements. Next slide, please. As part of our continuing efforts to support our organization, we at Hands in Inclusion Philippines needs everyone, your help. How? Through our purchases in the Hands in Inclusion Philippines online shop. So the products that we are selling are the One Inclusion Nation t-shirts and the One Inclusion Nation tote bags and the Talano Gold colored One Inclusion Nation t-shirt. For the One Inclusion Nation t-shirts is available in red, black, blue, white, and yellow, all sizes for 275 pesos. For the One Inclusion Nation tote bags is available in white and black, sizes are ranged between medium to large, and prices are ranged between 150 to 200 pesos. And for the Talano Gold colored, it is available in a limited time only. Sizes are ranged between small to XL, and prices are ranged between 325 to 350 pesos. So we'll be very strict on payments. Payment first before purchase. We're accepting payments from GCash and will deliver your ordered products via GoGo Express and LBC as well. Next slide, please. So the Hansen Inclusion Philippines online shop is temporarily closed for areas under Alert Level 5, but it will continue to serve in areas under Alert Level 1 to 4 only. Its operating hours are from 12 midnight to 11:59 in the evening. For a full list of orders, please visit the Hansen Inclusion Philippines Facebook page or email us at hansen.inclusion@gmail.com. Next slide, please. So again, as part of our continuing efforts to support our organization, we at Hands in Inclusion Philippines needs your help. To be honest, ladies and gentlemen, many of us have already been struggling with our financial problems in our organization. So regardless, no matter what, it doesn't really matter if the amount is smaller or larger. We'll be appreciating you guys to help Hands in Inclusion Philippines as well. How? You may donate Hands in Inclusion using GCash on this QR code or through the Barya para sa Inclusion Fundraising Project, wherein you can donate using a coin bank where you put any amount of coins, and also to be deposited through Union Bank as well. You may also check the QR codes for GCash and Union Bank as well. So ladies and gentlemen, what are you waiting for? Please, please, and please lang. Please continue to help Hands in Inclusion Philippines for its fundraising project. We're aiming to raise funds in our organization. Let us have the time to rebuild in order for us to have a bigger, better, and a bolder Hands in Inclusion Philippines. So the proceeds from the sales in the online shop and for your donations will go to us here in Hands in Inclusion, especially for the formality of the organization and the SEC registration of the organization, and also for the financial aid of the members due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So guys, for those who did this, thank you very much for your continuous generosity and for your support to the organization. So before we move on, if you want to purchase the accessories of Ate Lady Jane Florese, then you may purchase it through Elgin Accessories. You may message her and you may also contact her through WhatsApp as well. Next slide, please. If you have any problems with your computer, your laptop, your desktop, or if you have any problems with your Android or iOS phones and tablets, if the brand is Windows or Apple or Mac. And also, if you want to download music, games, and movies, Sir Mark Paulo Betita will be here to help you. How? You may message Sir Mark Paulo Betita on Mark PC Laptop Repair Services. You may do so by messaging him on Facebook, Mark Paulo Betita. You may contact him at 0947-355-4759, and Sir Mark Betita will be here to help you as well. Next slide, please. So you have some events coming up for the month of March in Best Buddies Philippines. This week, we have around 4 events. First is Spread the Word Inclusion with Best Buddies Philippines, the UST Guild of Thomasians Educators, and Special Olympics Philippines. We'll be having the ambassador training tomorrow up to the 18th. We'll be with Nexus and Asurion to those who are the ambassadors tomorrow. Good luck as well. We'll be having Wellness Wednesday with Coach Pepper and BFit on March 16. We'll be having Beloved Friendship Bracelets on March 19. On March 21 to 25 is Inclusion Week with Best Buddies Benil. And March 26 is Jolly Friendship Jams. So if you want to join these events, follow Best Buddies Philippines on Facebook and Instagram. Send them a message and the registration form will be sent to you as well. Just a reminder, for Best Buddies Philippines, just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, Best Buddies Philippines is a non-profit, non-denominational, and a non-political organization. We support and pray for a clean and fair elections, and we do not endorse any political party or candidate. As members of the Best Buddies Philippines community, please refrain from endorsing any political candidate during the activities of Best Buddies Philippines. In Best Buddies Philippines, make a friend, be a friend. Next slide, please. So, we urge everyone to continue supporting for Project Sold Out. We like to thank Uriah Gallery, Special Achievers, and our partner organizations for the participation of this event. So please check Special Achievers for the Project Sold Out on Facebook. Next slide, please. If you are feeling hungry, especially for your breakfast, lunch, dinner, merienda, or any occasions, birthday parties, or any event, then you want to order some of the foods from the Sobra Comfort Food Restaurant and the Kuya Korea Restaurant. For the Sobra Comfort Food Restaurant, menus are the Tapa Sobra, Chicken Tocino, corned beef brisket, homemade spam, and beef sapika for the all-day breakfast. Sizes are ranged between solo to large and prices are ranged between 265 pesos to 1,450 pesos. Next slide, please. For our rice trays, we have beef bulgogi, beef shawarma, beef udon, pork crackling bits, pork belly burnt ends, charred chicken, and boneless fried chicken. Sizes are ranged between solo to large and prices range between 265 pesos to 1,700 pesos. Next slide, please. For our sandwiches, we have the fried chicken sandwiches, cold pro sandwich, corned beef sandwich, and chicken tocino sandwich. Sizes are ranged between regular, large, solo, and box of course, and prices are ranged between 320 pesos to 1,540 pesos. Next slide, please. For our pasta, we have mac and cheese, and penne and gorgonzola. Sizes are ranged between solo to large, and prices are ranged between 290 pesos to 1,350 pesos. Next slide, please. So, if you want to order in the Sobra Comfort Food Restaurant, head over to the Sobra Comfort Food website, select the dishes you want to order, choose between pick up or delivery, Pay conveniently through any of the same integrated payment methods and your order is confirmed. Expect updates via text or email. Next slide, please. For our rice bowls, chicken and the boneless popcorn chicken is available at the Kuya Korea restaurant. If you want to crave for something Korean. For the rice bowls, we have beef bibimbap, beef bulgogi, pork samgyup, and K-pop chicken. Prices range between 195 to 220 pesos. For the boneless popcorn chicken, sizes range between half to whole, and prices range between 235 to 435 pesos with the flavors of gochujang, ganjang, chicken, and K-buffalo. If you want to order there, please check the Kuya Korea website for your orders as well. Next slide, please. On March 24, 2022, at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on the Inclusion Week in Best Buddies Benil, De La Salle College of St. Benil, in collaboration with the Center for Inclusive Education, the Office of the Vice President for Lasallian Mission and Student Life, the Beniljan Student Envoys, and Best Buddies Benil will have a webinar on gender inclusion and safe spaces. The speakers are Attorney Cheyenne and Miss Amber. That will be done at 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on March 24 next week, live via Zoom. The event is free and there will be sign language interpreters available for the deaf and or hard of hearing. If you want to join, you may register on the Center for Inclusive Education Facebook page, and there is a registration form in the post as well. Next slide, please. Lastly, follow Hands in Inclusion Philippines on our social media pages and its digital platforms as well. It would be appreciated for you guys to do this as early as now. Follow us on Facebook, Hands in Inclusion PH, InkluRadyo, InkluSports, InkluNihan, and the online shop. Instagram, Hands in Inclusion PH, Twitter, HNI Pilipinas, Kumu, HNI Philippines, and subscribe to the Hands in Inclusion Philippines YouTube channel. Guys, for those who did this, thank you very much as well. Next slide, please, Sir Mark. Now is the time for our greetings. So from Sir Mark, shout outs to Tropang PWD, especially to Sir Jason, um, also to Lady Jane Eliasar Florese, and to Sir Mark Betita. Good evening to you and thank you for watching. Uh, for me, shout outs and greetings to my family, to Hands in Inclusion Philippines, Best Buddies Philippines, Best Buddies Benilde, and other PWD organizations, and to my high school and college friends as well, and to my fellow Benildians who are the recipients of the Dean's List from first term 2021 to 2022. Congratulations as well, and keep up the good work. And also to those who are watching, it may be a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I hope you guys are in a good mood, and if not, you may use this time to improve on your mental health and your well-being as well. Those who are watching me on InkluRadyo, thank you very much as well. If you missed this episode, it will be premiered on the next day on the Hands in Inclusion Philippines YouTube channel. Next slide, please. Before we wrap up our show, we would like to share with you our quote for the day. Next slide, please. Our quote for the day is from Timothy Guy. Monetary policy itself cannot sensibly be directed in reducing imbalances. Sir Mark, can you please disable the share screen, please? Okay. As you all may know, last last week, March 8, 2022, we celebrate the very important milestone in the history of our organization. We celebrated the 5th year anniversary of the organization. So, Hands in Inclusion Philippines is a community of volunteers that promotes proper inclusion of persons with disabilities in our country. We share their stories to help persons with disabilities become accepted in society as individuals and to help them live as equals, if not a functioning part of the community. As in Inclusion Philippines, its goal is to able to reach out to the proper channels, the public and private sectors, give aid, and to support to those who deserve this help. Hansen Inclusion Philippines was founded last March 8, 2017 by our founder, Roylan Marlang, a Pasayeño self-advocate with autism. This initiative was started as IIA, or what we call as Inclusion in Action. So, despite all the achievements in the history of Arts and Inclusion Philippines for the past 5 years of its existence, we continue to show that this is the true seal of a one inclusion nation. Nakaranas kami ng temporary shutdown noong June 6, 2020. Hindi kami nawalan ng pag-asa at biyaya. In Hands and Inclusion Philippines, we put God first, truth first, people first, promoting our culture and in our society. So, the best gift for us in this 5th year anniversary of Hands and Inclusion is that I would like to appeal to all the members of Hands and Inclusion Philippines to observe proper decorum so that we don't have any problems in our so that hindi tayo makakaproblema. Rather, let us continue to have a good example as well. We must learn how to show good attitude and show to be professional. Discipline to other people. Your cooperation and your undivided attention is highly appreciated. Let us learn how to be considerate, to understand each other, and to be self-controlled. Act like a neutral person. Let us act as a poor, not an elitist. Follow the things you need to follow. Sumunod kayo sa mga kailangan natin sumunod. Huwag lang asa-asa sa mga tinuutos mula sa may-ari at nagkapangasiwa ng organisasyon. Dapat maging maunawain, maawain at magalang at maging responsable tayo. At higit sa lahat, huwag tayo maging kampante at huwag ding matigas ang ulo. Sir Mark, anything else to add?
Tama po yun. At maging ano po tayo, maging matulungin at unawain po natin ang kalagayan ng bawat isa. Huwag pong maging pasaway, sabi nga po ni Sir Carlos. Yun po, maraming po salamat.
And also, Sir Mark, bakit natin ginagawa ito? Ito ay ginagawa para magiging mapayapa at maayos tayong matagal. Para
po ako dyan.
Tama yan. And also the reason why we're doing this is for us doing its best, for being peaceful, organized, and systematic in the organization, and also to be at par with other PWD organizations that are organized, systematic, and cooperative. Apart also for your patience and understanding, I would like to request everyone, to our viewers watching, that we need also your help and for your prayers for the anticipated return of Hands and Inclusion Philippines in the future as a formal organization. Expect a fresh new start as well. Sana matulungan natin yung ating mga purchases natin sa ating organisasyon. And also, have our fundraiser for its formality. Kailan natin matapos na to at and expect also for the SEC registration of Hands in Inclusion Philippines that will be done in the future. So, happy 5th year anniversary, Hands in Inclusion Philippines, and more power to our organization. Sir Mark, open cam please, as we wrap up our show. Okay, that's a wrap for our editorial episode for Monday, March 14, 2022. I'll be back again on Wednesday at the same time for the editorial Wednesday edition. On behalf of InkluRadyo and Hands in Inclusion Philippines, I am your host, Carlos Miguel Kanahashi. Together with me is Sir Mark Betita for my technical supervisor. Iawa ang Diyos, makakaraos po tayo. Sama-sama tayong lalaban para sa pangarap, pamilya at bayan hanggang sa ating tatak para sa One Inclusion Nation. Ngayong ika-5 ng anibersaryo ng Hands in Inclusion, makatotohanang inklusyon, angat buhay ang solusyon. Sa HNI, posible. May the mighty God bless us all. Pagpalain nawa tayo ng Diyos ng buong may kapal at magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Pilipinas, God first. HNI, God first. Thank you very much for watching. Have a blessed evening to all. And goodbye for now. Bye-bye.